BeTheTalk, episode 324, featuring Moshin Memon. Welcome to BeTheTalk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Moshin Memon. Moshin, are you ready to talk?
Absolutely.
Moshin Memon is an immersive learning advocate, a game designer, and uses technology to change the way learning happens by creating real, authentic, lifelike learning experiences that lead to realization and then change. Building great leaders to build great organization. Moshin Memon, welcome to the talk.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Your talk is called Limitless Growth Through Immersive Learning, and it's actually one of 4 talks that you've already given. You've got a 5th already lined up in a couple of months, so welcome to the 4-Timers Club, and soon to be the 5-Timers Club, sir.
Thank you.
So this was a autobiographical talk. You're talking about how you grew up in an Atlantic City, New Jersey high school. There were all kinds of significant, amazing challenges all over the place. And there's just a classic kind of tale of bootstrapping, really kind of scraping yourself up from the bootstraps, finding a mentor, finding a business competition, finding the resources that you need that weren't being volunteered by the environment at all. You had to go after what you needed to grow and to change and become the person you are today. And you summed it up in your talk. Please, Moshin, take us behind the talk.
Right. So, really the thought process and the intent of the talk was to share my story. It had been a difficult yet enjoyable experience in the last several years that I grew up in Atlantic City, and then finally made it out of the city, and then into a corporate job. I didn't know any corporate people at the time, and to find mentors and people that kind of guide me along the way. And in that process, I kind of discovered that there is a certain underlying model or an approach that I had become coming to understand this model, and I believe that if I could share this model with people, then perhaps people could also succeed in whatever it is that they wanted to do. And that model, which I call the preparedness equation. And it's a very simple concept.
Yeah, take us through the model, because I usually catch on those things from the talks. I totally missed it. So walk us through the model. I missed that piece.
Sure. So there are 2 parts to the model, really. What I'm saying here is that there is, when we talk about being prepared, truly prepared, you're looking at 2 aspects of it. One is your will or your willingness to achieve something, and the other is your circumstances or the opportunity. So the whole talk revolves around how you can manipulate and work with your circumstances to make them an enabler to your success. As opposed to just applying will to achieve an objective, you're utilizing your circumstances to enable you to win more. And that's pretty much the summation of the entire talk.
Yeah, well, and I think mindset and how you approach the environment that you have, absolutely huge. And the more mindful that you can be and the more flexible that you can be. Speaking as someone who, adaptability is strength number 32 out of 32 Strength Finder strengths. That is something that I am continually working on, especially after, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to realize how inflexible I was. So I got my ears on for sure. The other thing that comes to mind, Moshin, a couple of days ago, I was reading a study about researchers, and maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but they concluded that luck really was the critical factor in helping people amass a whole lot more money than other people did. And I remember looking at that study, and thinking, I think it's mindset. I think it's attitude. I think what the researchers are calling luck and looking just at the data, I think there's an attitude. I think there's a propensity to being flexible and being easy to work with that has a lot to do with that. So, at the end of the report, it did say, hey, there's more to be gleaned from this. So that's just something that's coming to mind. So in your circumstances, back to you, this is really powerful because you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. And you really had no other, from the sound of things, watching your talk, you had no other recourse. You didn't have the resources that you need. You had to become super adaptable. You had to become super open and have the right willpower to be able to kind of attract those resources and really be going to those resources instead of just kind of waiting for the phone to ring. So can you take us a little bit behind the persistence that you had, as well as the positive attitude that strengthened in your life, instead of getting more and more angry, resentful, bitter, when the more you had to persist, the more you actually found that you were able to open more doors as a result of that?
Sure. So one of the first opportunities that I got was an opportunity to start a business in a multi-level marketing sort of an environment. And little did I know and didn't have a whole lot of advice, but the first set of people that I talked to about this, and they said, this is a pyramid scheme. I mean,
that's what we always say. It's a pyramid scheme. It's a ground floor opera. Get out.
Right. So they said, if you see those people, run the other way. And I somehow couldn't get myself to do that. And that's mostly because the people that I got to get to know, fortunately, this happened before some of these people told me their experiences or their ideas around, the multi-level marketing. But what I got to learn through the process was I never made it big in the multi-level marketing world. But what was interesting was the fact that there were people who were willing to help you, and they were willing to help you learn. They were willing to help you grow. I had mentors who kind of guided me and coached me, and I think I made the best of it in that opportunity and in that moment. And utilizing that allowed me to kind of springboard off of that world into landing a corporate job that kind of paid me slightly big bucks over a lot more than the manual labor that would have paid me for sure.
Well, and that can be a really good thing. I mean, it's easy to discount, multi-level and direct sales or whatever, they're always having to find new buzzwords every few years. But I mean, I've found, kind of dipping my toe in that in past lives. I mean, you do find people that are willing to help you. You do have an upline or whatever the right name is. You have mentorship. You usually get exposed to that book, Think and Grow Rich, which is a great book that teaches persistence. And it's one of those books that you either walk away and you don't do the work, or you change yourself and change your attitude and do the work. And so in your case, was your corporate job, was that related to sales or that kind of thing in any way, perchance? I'm just curious.
Not at all, actually.
Not at all. Okay.
No, not at all. In fact, it was an opportunity that I had. So the thing was that one of the things that this process taught me was the ability to talk to people and the ability to network and the ability to connect with people. And it was just one fine day that I was walking out of a grocery store and I met this gentleman who I just kind of chanced upon and engaged in a conversation. By the time we were at the parking lot, the gentleman offered me an opportunity, and the opportunity was for being a business analyst with his company. This is an IT. Eventually, I got to work via him at companies like Delta Airlines and Walmart, which was huge for me at that time, and subsequently that led to other opportunities that opened doors for me.
Oh, excellent! So we've been enjoying this talk with Moshin Memon. His talk is called Limitless Growth Through Immersive Learning. And we're going to be back with Moshin in just a moment in the Blitz Round. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be the Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And we're back with the Blitz Round with Moshin Memon. His talk is called Limitless Growth Through Immersive Learning, and it is time for the Blitz Round. I'm going to ask him a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of his recent talks, soon to be 5 of them. So, Moshin, are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right. So, first off, and you can kind of conglomerate all 5 of your talks here, soon to be 5 or this one or whatever. Were you invited or did you apply for these talks?
So I was invited, but there's an interesting story. I don't know if I have the time to tell you that.
Sure. Tell us the story.
So I was attending a TED Talk and as an audience, and there was something interesting that this specific TEDx show did, and they invited people who ever wanted to speak at TED. And this time I'd never spoken at TEDx before, and they invited a bunch of people. Whoever raised their hands first or showed up at the stage first would get the opportunity.
Oh my gosh! Wait, whoa! They opened up the stage. First come, first serve, and give an impromptu talk that you've never given before.
Absolutely. So I got up there and I said, I started off with something to the effect of I did something that allowed me to go from earning $10 an hour to $70 an hour. If you want to know more, then ask for my talk.
Oh, so you were doing like a fire pitch, like a 30-second fire pitch to audition right on the spot. What a cool idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, I added a bit more masala to it and added a bit more spice in the process, but that was the gist of it. And, afterwards, people walked up to me and they asked me, how did you do that? What happened? And then, of course, others, the curators got in touch with me and one thing led to another.
Oh, you are a smart guy. So
I invited myself, I guess.
Find out how you two can septuple your income. And who doesn't want to hear about that? Oh my gosh! All right. Well, are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender in terms of how you prepare for these? You blender, okay?
I'm a blender. I like to memorize as well. My first talk, I had recorded the whole thing, and I must have heard it 15 million times over, to the point that it was just mechanical for me. So all I had to do was get up there and spit it out. But to be really honest, I'm just terrified of standing in front of an audience and speaking.
So you've done it almost 5 times now in a TED format, as opposed to every other speaking that's out there. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So, have you been an opener? Have you been a closer, or in between?
I think I've been in between all the time. I've never had the opportunity to either. I've been just before lunch. So that talk, the immersive learning talk, I was just before lunch, and we were already running late. So I had to crack a joke about I'm standing between you and your lunch right now, so it's a very tough spot to be in, and it got everybody rolling.
Yeah, no, that's not an easy spot. And right after lunch is even harder sometimes. That poor fellow or lady that has to keep everybody out of the food coma. Not an easy thing. So, cut for time question. What was the most painful part that you had to cut out?
Painful part that I had to cut out. I would say that it's telling the whole story, because you're not sure about your audience. You're not sure if they'll be able to digest it. There are some gruesome parts to it. So you have to be careful as to, everything that you're saying, and in the interest of being transparent, but not too transparent, kind of finding that balance.
Yeah, for sure. What was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk?
So one of the talks that I did, the curator kind of walks up to me and says, "Hey, I know you're a game designer and you make games. So is it possible to play your game on the stage?" And I'm like, wow, okay, that's a first. And so we made it happen, though. We had a group of 10 people come up and play the game live. And we talked about the dynamics within the game and how the gameplay itself, because it's multiplayer, led to realizations for the players who played the game.
Good deal. Well, we've been enjoying this conversation with Moshin Memon. His talk is called Limitless Growth Through Immersive Learning. If you want to find out more about that talk and watch that talk, go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com, as well as you can go to Moshin's company website. It's called memcorpimmersive.com. memcorpimmersive.com. We will have a link there as well. And we will be back in just a moment with Moshin Memon and his final word of advice. Hey, Talk Universe, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted. And we're back with Moshin Memon. It's time for the final word of advice. What is it?
So my word of advice to whoever wants to speak at a TED stage would be to really know your why. If you know your why, I mean, I'm a person who's incredibly scared of getting on the stage and talking, but because I know my why and I know what it is that I'm doing and why am I doing what I'm doing, makes it so much more palatable and easier for me to get up there and just share my story, because that's all that matters.
Moshin Memon, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the talk and share your wisdom with Talk Universe today.
Thank you. Pleasure's mine.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.